It's March 26th, 2012, and a couple weeks ago, I'm working with this elder who has a lot of experience with the judicial system, and I understand. I came to understand that it has to do with the definitions of things. That's the main discrepancy. And some people can hold to certain definitions for certain reasons, but holding to them too tight actually drains the life out of them. It becomes rigid and fixed. Now, this is not to say we should change the definitions of everything, but I recently have been, John David Ebert finished the first volume. He's on YouTube of a chapter-by-chapter overview of Oswald Spengler's Decline of the West, and I'm hoping he'll do volume 2. However, in that first, I think it was chapter 7 or something like that. I could look it up. I got the book. What was key for me is that I can read some work, but then having somebody else talk about it actually elaborates it. It brings it into a three-dimensional type of form. They have their own perspective of it. I have my own perspective of it, and then the author themselves gives the form to observe. And so this helps me tremendously, and not only that, it greatly elaborates John David Ebert's view on things as well, how he interprets, how he sees things. Anyway, helped me tremendously, and one particular, I think it was chapter 7 or part 7, I'm not sure. It was on form and function, and he gave a short little explanation of form and function, homology, and analogy. Now, I ran across analogy first in Campbell, and recently I've been reading Dante's Purgatorio by Dorothy Sayers, and throughout she uses the word analogous, analogy, in order to describe the proper perspective of the symbolisms Dante is using. And in form and function, the way he described it, if I got this right, he was trying to say that he used the example, I think was another example used by somebody else, about the lungs in a human being, the swim bladder, and the gills in a fish. And he was describing how the swim bladder is homologous to the lungs, but the gills are analogous to the lungs. And it has to do with form and function. So form has to do with analogy in what I'm describing here, and function has to do with homology. And for me, this was greatly elaborating. Well, Bob gave me that elder that had to do with the judicial system gave me this book, Signs of Intelligence, and in one of the essays by Philip Johnson, this is about intelligent design, and he's talking about scientists and their materialism, and he says, they must realize at some level that they cannot win the argument on the basis of evidence, and therefore must win it by imposing a definition of science that disqualifies their critics regardless of the evidence. And it hit me. I was like, yeah, that's what people do all the time. They just change the definition so that they can win. It's not about winning or losing for me. It's about how you play the game. And I understand that there's a lot of people that have only developed to the level in which it's win or loss, profit or loss, you know. And I find this related to capitalistic endeavors to exorbitantly profit at another person's expense, at someone else's expense. But for me, beyond all this tit-for-tat chess game mentality, I came to understand, it came clearly into view, the belief structures, because when I relate to people, I've understood this about the definitions and all this stuff. I didn't have the terms and the phrases to put on it. So the homology, analogy, form, and function, these are all terms and phrases that give characteristics. And this helps me tremendously in my mind's eye to see what I've actually been doing and my perspective and where I've been coming from. And what I realize is that depending upon someone's relationship with the unknown and unknowable, because some people can have a very positive experience with the unknown and unknowable, whereas others can be deathly afraid of it. Some people it can bring joy, and other people it can bring terror. What I've been doing is that I look at people's belief structures, established belief structures, and I come to learn their definitions and the terms and phrases they use, the terms and phrases and the definitions of those terms and phrases. But what I do in doing this is that I go deeper and deeper and deeper into a depth contact, a depth relationship, a depth level that confronts, it objectifies the beliefs. You know, a lot of times we live a life and we live according to these beliefs, but we don't know that we're believing in something that is guiding us. And the definitions have to do with evaluations, and the evaluations give form, give a direction, give a hint to what their feelings are towards things. I'm thinking of the Jeffery Wolf Green synopsis, that there's the, now I use the term metaphysical root of our being, that's from Joseph Campbell, and this is a very generalized idea from Jeffery Wolf Green, which I have put terms and phrases on. So there's the metaphysical root of our being, then from that stems our feelings, from that stems our values, from that stems our behavior, and from when our behavior becomes patterned, it becomes the role we take. And the role we take in life is similar to the mask we wear in life. But oftentimes we become identified. We identify ourselves with the role we play, the mask we're wearing. And we can take this role we play far too seriously, and for me this is symptomatic of somebody who takes themselves too seriously. And when someone takes themselves too seriously, this to me reflects a neglect. There's something inside of them that's been neglected, and as a result they need to pour forth all these values, that aspect that's been neglected has onto the world, give expression to it. And then by giving expression to it, it no longer is neglected. But then we have to go through the whole process of coming to terms with this aspect of being. And that is quite a ride. It makes for a good story, is what John David Ebert said in relationship to something else, but it does. It makes for a good story, that's coming to terms with these aspects of ourselves that have been neglected.